Hello everybody, Tim Norris here, aka GreyElephant.
And Carmen Norris.
And welcome to a quick review by GreyElephant Gaming. What are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about Raptor.
This was sent to us by Asmodee Games. I think it's actually Matagot, if I remember correctly.
You can tell that we enjoy the theme.
Anything with dinosaurs chomping on people it's a win in my book.
Yeah, but when we first got the game, I thought that was all there was going to be to it, was theme. And, I was like, oh, well, I'll get to be dinosaurs. But I tell you what, it really surprised me. This is a very strategic game.
Yeah, and I thought when I first looked at the box, I thought, boy, that looks so cheesy.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, we've got Lost World that just came out, so of course we have to try to, publish games that have dinosaurs in it and blah, blah, blah. But boy, I tell you what, I was so wrong. Once I actually sat down and I started reading the rule book, and I immediately knew this game's a little bit different than what I expected. Yeah. Very strategic, very fun.
Now, on your turn, you're going to choose one of your 9 cards to play, and depending on who plays the highest card, one player gets a number of actions, the other player gets the ability stated on the card. Now, the good thing about this is that you know what cards your opponent has, and you know the actions they can take. So, it really gets you thinking.
Yeah, and that's where really the game kicks into overdrive, because early in the game, you're just kind of guessing, because you each have a full deck of cards. Right. You both have 3 cards in your hand. So you're just kind of guessing. So you just basically want to play cards that are probably just going to give you the best ability at that time. As the game progresses, and you see that more cards have been played, that's where you're going to start playing the thinking game. I know that they probably have a 4, a 7, and a 3, and a 1.
Right.
What do they possibly have in their hand? What do I possibly want to eliminate? What do I possibly want to be able to play and get away with?
There are some abilities, There are some abilities on the card that are very powerful. For example, the scientists have a card that allows them to put 2 more scientists on the board. It's number 6.
Mm-hmm.
I remember this because I messed
number
up.
2. And number 16 and number 2.
And I let him play it during the line. You'd never want him to use that card. So if I know that he could possibly have the 6 or the 2 in his hand, I really want to combat that by playing a lower card so he doesn't get the ability.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of the game. That's where you really want to be very strategic and wise and when you play your cards at the right time, because you don't always want your opponent to have the ability of their cards. Sometimes you want to try to be able to use the ability of your card and limit them on the number of actions that they get to take.
Right.
If you can keep that between 1 or 2 actions and you get your ability, that's a win.
Exactly. Speaking of actions, if you know your opponent has an 8 or a 9 in their hand, then you want to be sure, you might spend your entire turn just playing a card close to that number so that they don't get as many actions.
Exactly. As the scientist, your goal is to try to either capture 3 baby raptors or tranquilize the mama by shooting her 5 times with tranquilizer darts to be able to win. The trick as the scientist is to try to not only create choke points to try to make the mama and the babies have to come down a certain way, but to also swarm your opponent. Get as many scientists involved in the game as possible. Limit the ability and the escape routes for those baby raptors. Try to confuse the mama. Try to get a couple of shots on her to slow her down.
What really messes me up as the raptor, there are 2 things. One is if you have enough fire and scientists at some point in the board where my babies are cut off from the mama. Because there's a mama's call card that allows the babies to go all the way across the board over to the mama, but that's only if they're not cut off. If their path is cut off, then that just limits you so much as a raptor.
Oh, yeah.
The other thing that limits you as the raptor is, of course, if you're shot with tranquilizer darts, because then Mama Raptor cannot move as well. She still gets her actions, but if she can't move over to the baby, the scientist, or the fire, then how's she going to use those actions?
Yeah. And Mama can only win by either eating all the scientists that are already present on the board or by getting 3 of her babies to escape. And that's a little harder or easier said than done on both ends for the scientist and the raptor. And that's where the balance of this game really comes into play. No matter which side you're playing on, you feel like you have an honest chance at winning, no matter what the situation. And our live play we did proves that point, because early in that game...
It was back and forth, back and forth.
It looked like I had that game well in hand.
It really did.
And it felt like, well, this is going to be over, before we even started.
I made a mistake. I made a big mistake. I let him play that card that allowed him to put 2 more scientists on the board. I was completely surrounded. There was no way I could win the game or even help myself by eating the scientists.
But then you played
I
an
had
ability.
to get my babies to escape.
Right, and that's the trick. You've got to make sure, like you had already said, keep the paths open to the mama. Always make sure that the babies have a way to escape. Always make sure they have a direct line to the mama, because you can always call in babies over to you, pull them out of danger.
That mama's call card is awesome.
Oh, it is. It is.
Which that's why he needs to make sure that I don't get that ability.
Exactly. You got to cut off the babies from the mama as the scientist. Create them choke points and overwhelm and swarm them. And as the Raptor, you feel like you need to basically chomp on as many scientists as you can, keep the board open as much as possible, but get all your babies on one side, close to the mama.
The simple way to win as the Raptor is to eat as many scientists as possible. But it gets more difficult when it comes down to you can't, so you're going to have to figure out how to get 3 babies to escape. But I tell you what, this game, it's the more we play, the longer our games are. And that's another thing that I think it's like chess, because it really depends upon your opponent and your skill levels.
Yeah, it really does. And ultimately, my final thoughts on this game is that this is probably one of the best 2-player games that you could possibly play. It's so well designed, it's so balanced, and it's just so fun. The theme is a blast. Like I said, I thought it was rather cheesy at first, but then I'm sitting down and I'm playing, and I'm like, wow, this is a really well designed game. A lot of fun. A lot of, back and forth, and times and moments where you think, oh, I've got this, just to watch victory slip through your fingers. I'm telling you guys, I am really surprised that this game, I'm surprised I liked it as much as I did. I'm not going to lie, because like I said, I thought it looked cheesy. But it's well done. I mean, it really is. This is probably one of my absolute top 2-player games.
I would just have to say that I agree. I mean, I had a blast playing it. I don't normally get into games a whole lot that aren't kind of more of a Euro style, game, worker placement type of thing. But I really, really love this one. I highly recommend it.
There you go. So both of us are thumbs up on that one, but we never want you to take our opinion for it. What should they do?
You should watch our live play.
That's right.
That way you can see how the game works in
real time. I play as the scientist because I'm always forced to play as the scientist. She's the Raptors. And I'm very disappointed that in no point in time during that live play did I ever say, clever girl.
Clever girl.
Because it did happen.
Raptors are clever. They're ingenious animals. That's why their scientists have such a hard time.
That's it. That's exactly it. Check out that live play. It's going to give you guys a great understanding on how this game works. And as usual, we appreciate you watching. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.